All right, happy Monday, everybody. Back to the Jesse Lee Falls podcast. Thanks for tuning in again. Uh, what did I want to talk about today? Well, it seems that these episodes are kind of inspiring one another. Seems like the topic I start off with will get me to a new topic towards the end of the episode, and then that topic is kind of what sets the frame for the next episode. And so I'm going to kind of just keep rolling with that. So the last episode I was talking about philosophy, and I was talking about how if you're a deep person or somebody who thinks deeply, then people probably find you annoying. So that was the premise. And a lot of that roots from that way of thinking. I know maybe it sounds depressing to some of you. I don't know, but my way of thinking on that is really based in just philosophy. I think, just thinking deeply. Yeah, the philosophy means, I believe it means love for wisdom. So. Some of us are just always trying to find some sort of foundational truth, fundamental truth, some fundamental reasoning. Because eventually you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why do I do anything? Why do I even get up and go to work? What makes me not just become a part of my furniture and stop caring about anything, become nihilistic and stop trying? It's like, what is the argument against that? And I think a lot of it has to do with philosophical reasoning. And so what I did was this was about a year ago. I've been sitting on these for a while. I don't know, maybe it wasn't even a year ago, I don't know, but I was messing around with Chat GPT, which, I don't mess with it too much, but I was feeling pretty creative one day. Surprise, surprise. And I had this idea, like, what would it be like if some of these philosophers that I really look up to, like Nietzsche and Kierkegaard and Marcus Aurelius, what would their spin on music marketing be, just for fun? What would some of their philosophies, what would that bring to light as far as an artist in the pursuit of trying to navigate an industry like this? So I wanted to read some of these to you because they were very pretty powerful. So I thought it was a cool idea. So I thought I'd read some of these off. Let's see. Okay. So, chapter 1, and these were basically like, what I did was I would prompt ChatGPT with a chapter idea, and then it would just spit this out. Okay, so just to let you know, the premises are mine. The chapter premises are mine. And then it would just spit out very profound stuff. So the first chapter is the necessity of difficulty. And this is what it says. It says, to be a musician is to willingly step into difficulty. It is not merely a craft of tones and timing, but an ongoing negotiation with uncertainty, resistance, and self-doubt. The difficulty of making music, technically, emotionally, spiritually, is not a flaw in the life of the musician. It is constitutive of it. Soren Kierkegaard understood this dynamic well, though he never addressed musicians directly in his writings, particularly in The Sickness Unto Death. Kierkegaard suggests that the self is not something one simply is, but something one becomes through struggle and inwardness. So there's a transformational element is what this is. That's the thing I just picked up on. Somebody becomes who they are through struggles and inwardness. That's transformation. The process of becoming oneself involves what he calls despair, not in the colloquial sense of sadness, but in the existential sense of being misaligned with one's possibility and purpose. Despair, in this view, is not always loud. It does not necessarily come with weeping or crisis. Often it is quiet, manifested in avoidance, inertia, or the temptation to abandon the very thing that gives life its weight. For many musicians, this despair arrives not in dramatic collapse, but in the cumulative exhaustion of persistent failure, creative drought, or the sense that one's work is invisible. In such moments, one is tempted to ask, why continue? Perfect. I mean, it's like, I didn't even mean to open up with the way I opened up. I didn't know it was going to correlate with that. So I love that. I love when that happens, right? Like, almost like the universe just kind of reiterated what I just said. Now, I understand that this is, AI, but it's extremely profound. And I agree with it. I mean, the bottom line is I agree with that, and it picked up on exactly on what I was trying to say was if I give you a prompt like the necessity of difficulty, and then you take that idea and then spit out, a few sentences in the spirit of Kierkegaard, and that's what you get. And I just love that. I think that's why I wanted, again, I know I'm always reiterating, why did I start this podcast? What was it? I think it was Nietzsche. Gosh, now I'm confusing my philosophers, but if you have a why, then you can overcome anyhow. So reason and purpose is what gets us to overcome, how we're perceived, how hard things are. And I know that a lot of you guys, the one thing that musicians, our biggest adversary is obscurity. The fact that people just don't know about our art. We're trying to make good stuff, but nobody knows about it. And the persistence of, the cumulative, so the accumulation, exhaustion of persistent failure, right? Because that's what it is. It's like every time the band breaks up, that feels like a failure. It's like every time something goes wrong with the band, it seems like a failure, and that's like you get used to drinking failure soup or something. You get used to eating it, and then you just get so damn used to it. You're just like, oh, that's just the way it is. It's like doing it is it's difficult. It's the most difficult thing you could probably want or choose to do, which I think music is maybe just it's one of the hardest things that you could choose to do. There's lots of things in life that are extremely difficult. Being a Navy SEAL is extremely difficult. But if you're trying to be a serious musician, you chose to do something virtually impossible. And the coolest thing about that, the most beneficial thing about that, is that it's like the best playing field for human development, for growth, I think. Because if you're somebody who can continue to fail, but you don't ever stop trying to succeed, that's, man, you're an unstoppable person. You're doing it for reasons and meaning that's way deeper than what people think we're aiming for, which is money and fame. So I don't want fame, I want freedom. And I don't, it's not so much, I'm sorry, actually, you can exchange money for freedom. And you can exchange, fame with, I wouldn't say obscurity is your best friend, but there's ways that you can make money with your music, and even like through YouTube, that it just kind of eliminates all of the parasites that are trying to make money off of you. As you're trying to build something, you got people who are like, it's like squeezing blood from a rock or something. It's like, you have to build it. And then once you've built it, then the parasites come in and they try to, they blood suck, right? Like, oh, you built this thing, and now we see value in it, and it's like, okay, well, where were you when I was building it? Yeah. So that's another thing, is like, you guys do realize you've chose virtually the most impossible thing to do if you're trying to be an artist at all. If you're trying to do any creative endeavor, and if you want to learn more about how to overcome that creative hurdle, I would say check out something called the Pareto distribution. And I can't remember how to spell it. I want to say it's like, I think it's like PEREDO or something. I can't. I'm sorry if I'm misspelling that, but it's called the Pareto distribution, and it's something that they basically consider it like a universal law, really. I've talked about it in some of my other episodes. But if you want to understand how to make any creative endeavor successful, you need to know about the Pareto distribution, because 99% of the world, the way that reality is set up, 99% of it is kind of working against you. Because basically what it is that things stack up at one. Everything stacks up at one. Best way to describe it is like a poker game. If poker game is life, it's winner takes all. There's only one winner of the poker game, right? It's whoever's left standing with all of the money. And that's the way the game Monopoly works too, right? So things stack up at one. So it's pretty brutal. That's extremely brutal. That's why even on the last episode I was talking about the 1%. People look at like, oh, they want to be known. They want to be known. They want to be in that like 1%. They want to be in that top, we'll call it top 10, 5, 1%, whatever, where you're actually somewhat known. And it's I wouldn't say it's it's like this. People think they want to be there, but they don't want to do what it takes to get there. And what does it take to get there? I like the quote. I heard Joe Satriani say that good behavior rarely goes rewarded. So I think that that's a big part of it, is that you guys aren't rebellious enough to be in the 1%. Um, because if you think that you can move mountains without making waves, you're afraid to make waves. So you chose to do something hard. You chose to do something that's the hardest. And nobody cares about you. It was kind of like that was kind of reiterated in this. Like, nobody's seeking you out, man. Nobody's seeking your music out. So I really like that. I know I'm kind of hung on that one for a while. I'm gonna get to the next one. Um, so that answer was in the spirit of Kierkegaard. Um, let's see. Oh, I like this one. Okay, yeah. Because I had kind of mentioned this in my last episode about being a disruptor. Chapter 3, this one is The Artist as a Disruptor. And this is what it comes back with. And it looks like this is in the spirit of Kierkegaard as well. In an age increasingly obsessed with efficiency, productivity, and measurable outcomes, the musician often appears anomalous. Someone who devotes immense effort to producing something that cannot be sold as a tool, cannot be justified in a budget, cannot be proven to improve the GDP. This is not new. Soren Kierkegaard, writing during the height of the Industrial Revolution, found himself in a similar position. Kierkegaard was, by many standards of his time, useless. He invented nothing. He improved no machines. He neither taught nor led a church. He had inherited wealth, chose not to marry, and spent much of his life writing under pseudonyms, keeping his, keeping himself ambiguous. Constructing, maybe not ambiguous, but keeping himself anonymous, right? Constructing indirect arguments that confounded more than they convinced. Constructing indirect arguments that confounded more than they convinced. That just takes brass balls, kind of. I mean, to me. So, anyways, his mission as he saw it was not to simplify life or make it more pleasant, but to make it more difficult. Not arbitrarily, but in the Socratic sense, to awaken individuals to the inward truth of their existence, a truth obscured by comfort, distraction, and crowd thought. The musician, especially in their truest form, inhabits this same existential terrain. In a society that rewards the smooth and the soothing, the artist becomes the necessary disruptor. Not all music is disruptive, of course. Much of it is entertainment, background comfort, but the music that endures, the music that troubles, inspires, haunts, refuses to participate in mere utility. It interrupts. It draws the listener inward or outward, or both at once, confronting them with what they didn't want to hear or didn't know they needed to feel. In this way, the musician plays a Kierkegaardian role. They provoke anxiety, not in the clinical sense, but in the existential one. Their work reminds people that life is not reducible to consumption or career. Their sound opens a space where contradiction and uncertainty are not problems to be solved, but dimensions to be inhabited. Like Kierkegaard's writings, the musician's message is often oblique, indirect, paradoxical, and like Kierkegaard, they risk being ignored or ridiculed for it. But the disruption is the point. Kierkegaard saw the danger of a society moving too quickly toward answers, comfort, and distraction. He saw that progress, when severed from reflection, leads not to truth but to despair disguised as success. The musician, whether they know it or not, speaks into the same void. Their refusal to be merely entertaining is an ethical stance. Their uselessness is their power. To be a musician, then, is not only to make sound, but to insist that not all value is instrumental. It is to make room for subjectivity in a culture of metrics. It is to confront society and sometimes even oneself with the uncomfortable reality that life is not solved by optimization but suffered into meaning. Yeah, so that is like, I hope this is disrupting you. that's, that's the whole point, I was talking on the last episode about, do you want to be a YouTube do you want to be a YouTube influencer, or do you want to be a YouTube inspirer? So that kind of self-reflection, because that's what that was. I was pulling out I was reflecting on something because the word influencer came out of my mouth. And as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, ew, gross. Like, I hate that word. I hate the word influencer. That's ridiculous. I like being inspired. And so I pulled that idea out because I confounded myself with an idea. I caught myself saying an idea or a concept I didn't believe in. And it was like, it accidentally kind of came out, I was like, you want to be an influencer. And I was like, wait a second, don't be an influencer. That's like, to me, it's like, it's parasitical. I said that on the last one. And I really believe that. We should be inspiring one another. And that's why I wanted to read some of this stuff to you guys, because I just really felt like it hits home from where I was coming from on my last episode. So, why do we do music? Why are you doing it? Do you guys self-reflect on why you do it? Do you understand the value of being a disruptor and not trying to play music that is basically background that's pleasing to people? This is what I think. There was a lot of this that jumped out at me as what I would call optimally challenging people. An artist's job is to optimally challenge people. You're trying to wake people up. Again, it's not by trying, like you don't have a malicious intent to be you're not trying to be pessimistic, and you're not trying to be a provocateur. You're not trying to antagonize. You're not trying to be an antagonist. But what I gather from this, it's kind of like Joseph Campbell's book, The Masks of God. The Masks of God talk about if you look at different ancient cultures, and different cultures have their versions, these masks that they make, and they're the masks of God, and the masks are usually terrifying looking. They're very scary looking. They look like monsters, right? Like kind of almost like like demons, kind of like they're monstrous, and the masks are ugly. And the reason why the masks of God are terrifying is because that's what it's supposed to change you psychologically through fear. So there's a transformation that happens, and this is why psychologists and psychiatrists they'll tell you, like, you probably hear this mantra all the time, that if there's a fear, that you move into the fear, because moving into a fear helps you realize how much stronger you actually are and how you actually have power over that fear. Once you realize you have power over that fear, then you have much more control over your life, and you are more empowered. And so I think that we're guided by our fears, unfortunately, sometimes. But that psychological transformation is necessary. And I think that you could kind of draw a correlation and make a metaphor that musicians are like the masks of God. And you can actually kind of see that, like seriously, if you think about like Alice Cooper and Gene Simmons and Marilyn Manson and stuff. Well, Marilyn, man, I have some issues with Marilyn. I have issues with, if you're being theatrical and fun and you're having fun with it, you can be edgy, and you can take things kind of down a little bit darker path, because you are trying to wake people up that, hey, this isn't anything to be scared of. It's a way to move into that fear, to transform yourself and realize, this wasn't anything to be afraid of. But then there are some people that are actually, I think, maybe they're being guided by the wrong motives, maybe the wrong spirits even. So I think that the masks of God, and musicians are like the masks of God. It's supposed to, we're supposed to basically be like the shaman, the shaman who we're the ones that were willing to be on the edge of chaos and order, because we go out into the edge of chaos, and we not only do we bring some of that chaos and unknown back to our society for growth and well-being, prosperity and understanding, but we can also bring order into the realm of chaos a little bit too, where we can be like the bridge between the unknown and the known. And I think that's musicians, that's what I said on the last one, is that I think it's musicians' jobs, is that we're kind of like the shaman that way, and we're disruptors. We're actually disruptors, because hopefully we're writing stuff it's not shallow, it's waking people's souls up. It's waking people up. What do I mean by that? Waking you up to your potential. We have so much reserved potential, and most of us are wasting it. Most of us waste it. And I do see the musician as the disruptor. I kind of feel like, yeah, that's kind of our job, We're supposed to sometimes present challenging ideas, maybe some terrifying ideas, or, ooh, wow, I never really thought about that concept in that way before. And it opens your eyes to deeper meaning, when you've been looking at something maybe very trivial for a long time, and all of a sudden it kind of wakes you, oh, holy crap, wow, I've been looking at that all wrong. It's pretty amazing. It's an amazing phenomenon to be able to look at something one day and have a certain view or a world view of something one day, and then wake up and have a completely different world view of that same thing. And that's, you know, that's miraculous in a way. So, I think I'm going to stop there, but I really like this. There's, I got a lot more here. So I'll do another episode, on a couple more of these chapters, I think. The musician, chapter 4 is the musician as existentialist. I think I'll just come back to it, you guys. I appreciate you guys sorry, as I'm reading it. I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. And I hope that you guys see that my intention is to wake some of you up and wake you up to, have you thought about what it means to be a musician? Have you thought about what you're doing and what does it mean? Have you thought about the idea that when we get pushback from our friends and family, when we tell them we want to be a professional musician, do we really have any empathy for what they're actually saying? You know? Because the bottom line is that a lot of people push back on us because they don't think we've actually thought it out. And we actually don't know. They're pushing back on us because they don't think we've thought it out, and they don't even think we know where we're coming from. And I can't argue with that, because I don't think a lot of musicians even think about where they're coming from or why they're doing something. And I'm sorry to like throw musicians under the bus, but it's people. It's just people. It's all people. Like, we don't think about really, why are we doing this? What are we doing? What is the meaning behind what it is I'm doing? What is the meaning behind me getting up every day? Why am I not a nihilistic, self-loathing, nihilistic, quitter, loser of a human being? Why do I not choose to go down that road? Because it's really kind of easy, like, I'm just going to do nothing. So if you don't live that way, subconsciously, unconsciously, somewhere deep down, you know you're living for something. You may not even know what it is, but you know you're living for something. And that is meaning. Even if you say, I'm living for something and I don't know what that something is, well, the best way to boil down what that something is without knowing what it is to call it meaning. It's because it's Richard Dreyfuss with the potatoes, man. This means something. And I think when I talk about, on the last episode, when I was talking about how depth equals annoying, it's like when you're constantly pointing out where the meaning is in things, people get annoyed by that. They don't want to. There's a lot of people that don't want to look at things that things might have deeper meaning, because it just bothers them, because it hurts their brains. It hurts their small minds. Okay. But I think that that was a perfect example of being a disruptor, and why, and now I'm trying to throw some of these other ideas and some of these other people into the mix of this. But I think Joseph Campbell's book, The Masks of God, describes the disruptor, and why the disruptor, why, if you're writing songs that aren't shallow, and you're not trying to make songs that are really just background music so that you can go out, make the masses happy and get paid some measly fucking chump change, and you can call yourself a musician, and you get paid to play music. And it's like, really, man, like you're not waking anybody's soul up. Is your music waking anybody's soul up? Is it just background music for people to dance to? That's fine. I'm not knocking the utility and the purpose of music, which is to make people dance and feel good. But damn, it's like we can't suck all of the art out of music either. I mean, look at the way that band Fish took off. Half the time, I don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. But people find them meaningful. I mean, I have, listened to some of their lyrics and I was into them for a little while. I like some of their stuff. I mean, because they're musically just very well, very, very, very good musicians, man. I mean, they're like not very good. They're exceptionally amazing. Okay. Those guys they're amazing. Their fucking lyrics are weird. And the way Trey Anastasio sings them, it's got kind of a weird voice. He doesn't have like this beautiful like melodic voice, I wouldn't say. I mean they do some nice vocal harmony stuff. I think he's got a weird voice. I think he's got, not even weird, but just he has a very unique voice. It's a good voice, but it's unique. And his lyrics are fucking weird. And I think that's probably why they took off so big, because they were disruptors. Plus with kind of the the whole improv jam band kind of element to it. People feel that they're creating on the spot, which is very cool. It's a very organic, audience engaging, audience, bringing the audience along with you journey. Way cool, so there's a lot of value there. But it's because they're willing to do stuff that isn't orthodox. They're weird, And when I say weird, I mean it like a good thing. They're weird. I mean, marketing wise, if you go around telling somebody, oh, they're kind of weird, oh, I got to check them out. It's actually an attribute in the marketing world. Oh, they're weird. Like, oh, okay, well, I have to see what your definition of weird is now. So anyways, thanks guys. Thanks for hanging in there with me for another one. Mixing philosophy in with music. Yeah, I know. Super fun, right? Not. But I find this shit, I find this shit to be enthralling. I hope some of you guys find it interesting at least, and I hope this episode wasn't too mundane for you guys. I want to do a couple more of these, so I think I'll do the next episode on that. I just want to say thanks for hanging in there again, and we'll see you on the next one, okay? Cheers. Oh, and please subscribe. Thanks. Later.